Thank you for your interest in our research project titled Sense of Belonging Decreases During Health Profession Students' Clinical Rotations. I'm Suzy Okere, and I'd like to introduce our research team, Lana Erickson, Brianna Garza, Albert Mercado, and Noah Perez. And we are all from the Department of Physical Therapy in the College of Health Professions at Texas State University. I'd like to start with some background information. So our accrediting body, the Commission on Accreditation of Physical Therapy Education, describes a sense of belonging as the subjective feeling of deep connection with social groups, physical places, and individuals and collective experiences, and that it is the fundamental human need that predicts numerous mental, physical, social, economic, and behavioral outcomes. So that's the working definition of belonging that we're going to be referring to. What makes belonging significant is that it's associated with higher grades, self-confidence, and well-being outcomes. And clearly, all three of those characteristics are desirable for graduate students. However, there's a lack of evidence that documents the sense of belonging in student physical therapists. So the purpose of our study was to document if there is a change in the sense of belonging while student physical therapists are on their clinical rotations. So in our program, when they are on their clinical rotations, it is after they've completed all of their didactic coursework. And so they are off campus on their clinical rotations, and they're off campus for about 11 months. The methods that we used, we started with 34 Texas State Doctor of Physical Therapy students. And our program, the cohorts typically are 44 students. So we had 34 out of the 44 participate. So that was a high rate of participation. There were 13 males and 21 females, and that distribution is fairly typical for the cohorts in our department. And the average age was 27.3. And again, our program is a 3-year program. And so these students are entering their 3rd year. So 27 is a fairly typical age for our 3rd year students. We used a descriptive observational design. And for instrumentation, this is a mouthful, we used the Sense of Belonging at Texas State University Department of Physical Therapy scale. And this is an adapted version of the Sense of Belonging at Imperial College London scale. It's a 10-question survey, and 5 of the questions are regarding how the faculty make a participant feel like they belong, and then the other 5 questions are related to how their classmates make, or other students, it could be students in other cohorts, but how the PT students make the participant feel like they belong. And it has a 5-point Likert scale, response scale, and so those 5 points, it goes from 0 to 4. And since there's 10 questions, the overall score can range anywhere from 0 to 40 points. This study was approved by Texas State's IRB, and students were recruited via email. So emails went out one evening. It had a detailed description of the study, provided informed consent. It included links to the survey. And so the students were asked, to read the background information about the research project, but to not complete it right away when they received the email. We set aside class time the following morning where the research team went in. I again explained the study in detail and asked if there were any questions. I answered any questions that the students had about the research study as a whole. And then I, as the lead researcher, left the room so that students didn't feel any undue, pressure to complete the surveys and to keep it anonymous. So I didn't know if students were or were not completing the surveys. And then, but the other student researchers remained in the room just to be available if any issues came up while the students were taking the survey, like if they had any questions about the actual survey questions themselves. We used Qualtrics software to administer the survey. And as I said, the surveys were completed during class time. And that was just to try to increase participation rates. And they were completed during class just prior to students going out on their clinical rotations. So that served as the pretest. And then we went through the same process again when the students came back to campus for about a week when their clinicals are completed and just prior to graduation. So we tested them again at that point, and that served as our post-test. We used Microsoft Excel for our statistics, and it was a paired t-test that we used, and that compared the mean scores from pre-test to post-test. Moving on to results, the pre-test mean score was 30.8, and the post-test mean score was 29.4. So that is about a point difference, a little over a point difference, decrease. And even though that was a small difference, statistically, that was a statistically significant difference. So in conclusion, what do we make out of this 1 point difference? We did document that the sense of belonging did decrease over the, approximately a year. It was more like 11 months that the Doctor of Physical Therapy students were on their clinical rotations. And even though that decrease was significant, it was truly a small decrease. And so that reflected that the students still felt a strong sense of belonging to their program, even though they were off campus. So even though they were away from their classmates and away from the faculty and away, from the university support structures, they still felt a strong sense of belonging to the Department of Physical Therapy. Other things we concluded was that health professions programs should consider students' sense of belonging even when they're on clinical rotations and that they're off campus. And this would support the students' self-confidence and well-being outcomes. So any efforts that can be made while students are off campus to help them still feel connected to the university, to the department, to the faculty, or to their classmates. Since belonging is associated with higher grades and self-confidence and well-being, it would be a positive thing for health professions programs to promote or to continue a sense of belonging even when students are off campus. So the relevance is, since sense of belonging is associated with higher grades and self-confidence and well-being, it's important for health professions programs first to measure and document the level of belonging, and then if it's indicated, then programs should try to implement measures to either better understand what things contribute to a strong sense of belonging and what things could be done to improve students' sense of belonging if the department deems that the sense of belonging is not really where they would like it to be. We'd like to thank Dr. Barbara Melzer. This research was funded by the Dr. Barbara Melzer Endowed Professorship. Thank you.